Hey guys, today I watched the last video in Dr. Sadler's lecture series on fallacies. So he's got a lot of other really good looking content, which I definitely want to tap into, definitely recommend you to as well. But this was the last in his logical fallacies series. The two that he talks about are the appeal to ignorance and begging the question. So the way that the appeal to ignorance argument is laid out is something like, you haven't proven X to be the case, therefore X is not the case. That could also be reversed to say, you haven't proven X not to be the case, therefore X is the case. A real example would be, you don't know that I ate the last of the ice cream, therefore I didn't eat the last of the ice cream. So what is that doing? It's what he calls misplacing the burden of proof. So it's saying, because you don't know that I took the last of the ice cream, I didn't take it. You know, it's saying you are the proof. And while that's high praise to think that we're all knowing and we'll know whether somebody took the last of the ice cream, just because you don't know, that doesn't all of a sudden make their position true. I think we even do this a little bit subconsciously. So picture when you see a debate, you see one person ask a question or state something, and then it goes over to this other person, and they're quiet, they're stumped, they can't think of it, or at least can't think of it for a few seconds. What does your mind automatically do? Automatically you think, this person was right in their point. This person knew what they were talking about. This person is, whatever their point was going to be or ends up being, is false. It's not true. But whether this person was right, whether they were wrong, whatever the case is, just because this person doesn't know, that doesn't all of a sudden make their point or make their argument true. There has to be other outside evidence beyond that. And I think we also need to make sure that we're demanding proof from both sides. So you'll see people who are on the Republican side, whenever Donald Trump says something, it's like, oh yeah, like Donald Trump said this, yeah, totally right, totally agree, this because this and this. And then if the Democrats ever say anything, then it's like, no, that's wrong because this, and then pulling this proof, that's wrong because over here. And so we have, that unequal demand for proof. And don't get me wrong, people on both sides do this. If you're a Democrat, usually you're going to just, accept that what Hillary Clinton says more. If you're a Trump supporter, then you're going to accept that more. So it's not that we just accept everything. But instead, I think we need to demand proof out of both sides. So if Hillary Clinton says something, let's figure it out. Let's demand that evidence. If Donald Trump says it, let's demand evidence. Let's see the results of it. Don't just take whatever somebody says and call it truth just because they say it. The other one that he talks about is begging the question. So this is a phrase that I think has kind of been misused. He talks about that a little bit in the lecture. But it seems like it's kind of used just now as in basically asking the question. So you might hear something like, Senator such and such begs to ask, or begs the question, are there any Republican people left in the state of California? So it's kind of just used as asking the question instead of begging the question. So what this actually is it's part of this argument. And the way the argument looks is very simple, very straightforward. It's A because A. So it looks very simple, but it's using it's putting the question in the conclusion in the question. It's just kind of mixing everything up. So this isn't going to look really simple though. We're not going to ask something, or we're not going to say something like Microsoft is the best company because Microsoft is the best company. Nobody's going to think that's a good argument. Everyone's going to be like, okay, well, that's your opinion and it doesn't really matter. There's not an argument there. But people actually do this and say it in different ways, and all of a sudden it sounds like a fantastic argument. So if somebody said, Apple was the most popular company in 2018 because people liked Apple more than any other brand last year. It's still kind of bordering on like being too obvious, but that all of a sudden people might kind of agree with you. They might be like, yeah, good point, man. That's a great point. But a good sign to know that that's not a good argument is if you have your premise and your conclusion and you can swap those and you still have your argument. So with the example that I just gave, it would be people liked Apple more than any other brand last year because Apple was the most popular company in 2018. So I've just swapped my conclusion and my premise, and I still have an argument. But actually I don't, because if you can do that, then you have a fallacious argument that can't be used. And once again, it's great for people who already agree with you. If somebody already thinks that Apple is the best company ever, they're going to be like, oh yeah, totally agree that it was definitely the most popular, really, really great company. But people say if somebody's a Samsung user, they're probably going to be like, wait, what do you mean? Apple was the most popular company in 2018. What's your evidence? Oh, well, people liked Apple more than any other brand last year. What? What's the evidence? That's still not evidence. You're just saying the same thing. You're like, oh, well, bummer. Well, it's the case. You don't know that it's not the case, therefore it is the case. And now you have doubly made your argument a fallacy.